Great. Thank you, Andy. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us. So this is going to be a joint session. So I'll be one of the presenter, and then also with me is Yanow, who's going to talk a little later about his program from Southwestern College, and then also Diana and Elena from the FAA. So again, welcome. My name is Cheung. I'm a professor of geography and GIS at Palomar College, and also a proud product of the UC system. I did my undergrad at UCLA and got my PhD at UC Irvine. So I'm going to talk a little to you about the drone program that we have at Palomar College, but also about something called the DroneCamp and how it has been used to design the curriculum that we include in our program. Here's a picture of the drone summer camp that we have been hosting for our high school students. And this is one of the activity that was supported by NSF grants that we have. And you can see a video, a short 2-minute video about that grant and all the other activities involved in that grant by clicking on the link in the chat window. So the overarching mission of the drone program at Palomar College is really as simple as this: is to educate tomorrow's drone entrepreneurs and drone professionals. And so to that end, right, you can see kind of a brief timeline as to how we did this at Palomar College. So going back to 2015 is when we first started developing the courses that would go into our program. And then from 2018 and on, right, not only did we develop and offer a certificate in UAS, but also have an associate's degree. And then we're currently also a partner on the City of San Diego's FAA Integration Pilot Program project. And then we have been hosting the drone summer camp, like you saw on the last slide, for a high school student with the award from NSF. And then we also have been doing something similar to the drone summer camp that you all have been participating in this week, except mostly focused on faculty to get faculty from other areas like biology, archaeology, interested in UAS and see what UAS can do, or at least inform them as to what UAS can do for their field so they can inform their students in return. And then we have also applied to the FAA UAS Collegiate Training Initiative program, which Diana and Elena will talk a little bit more about later on. So at Palomar College, like I said in the last slide, we have a certificate in UAS that can be completed in 2 semesters by taking 6 classes. And the focus of that certificate is basically the first 4 bullet points that you see here under focus. If students want to get more in depth in their training, they can also get an associate's degree, right? That will take 4 semesters and require them to take 10 classes, which would then cover basically all the bullet points under this focus area here. So with respect to each of the courses that we listed, right, in the as part of the program, as you saw in the previous slides, we basically take it very seriously that we should gather industry feedback, right, when we're developing these classes, because after all, the overarching mission, right, of our program is to prepare our students for the workforce, either as entrepreneurs or professionals going into this ever-growing industry of UAS. So the way that we do this, that we gather these industry feedback, is by using something called the DroneCamp. And DroneCamp stands for Developing a Curriculum, and is a focus group methodology that was developed in Ohio State University in the 70s. And so over the course of 2 days, we basically convened this focus group meeting with 12 industry professionals and basically tried to get the feedback or solicit information and advice from them as to what our students need to know if they were to go into the field. And so here's a more kind of succinct description of what a DACOM is to capture the major duties, tasks, knowledge, skills, traits, tools, and related information for a specific occupation. In this particular case, the occupation that we're looking at is unmanned aircraft system operations technicians, or UAS technicians. So here's a picture from the DACOM session that we hosted at Palomar College. And so as you can see here, right, after the 2 days of meeting, we got everyone that was involved to agree on 6 major duties that our students need to know if they were to get entry-level position as a UAS operations technician. So plan the UAS operation, prepare for the UAS operation, perform the UAS flights, perform UAS post-flight procedures, maintain the UAS, and maintain professional proficiency. But then the question is, what do each of these duties actually involve? What are the specific tasks that someone needs to do, right? For example, within the duty of plan the UAS operation. So if you look at the full DACOM chart, which is also, there's also a link in the chat window, you can see that we have broken down, right, each of the duties by the tasks that are involved. So, and in addition, we also ask the focus group, what are the future trends in the industry and what are general knowledge that our students need to know, as well as skills like interpersonal skills or other occupation related skills like the soft skills that our students need to know. So just to show you very quickly here, if you click on that link that is in the chat window, it'll bring you to this Google Drive folder. And you can see here that this is the full DACOM chart. And here's the participants in our DACOM panel. And you can see they represent a variety of industries, from public safety to archaeology to mapping and surveying to, I think I already said public safety, construction and inspection. But if you look here on the next page, you can see here the A, B, C, D, E, F are the 6 major duties that the whole group identified and agreed upon. And within each of these duties are the specific tasks that are involved that students should know as they're going into industry. And if you look at the insert here, it also spells out what are the behaviors and skills that students need to know, as well as equipment that they need to know, and future trends that educators as well as students may want to pay attention to. So let's see here. So yeah, so here's my contact information. And the next speaker is Ken Yenow from Southwestern College, who will talk more about some of the things to consider when you're building a drone program at your school and how to make use of the DACOM in the process. But remember that those information in the DACOM, like the task duties, trends, right, can be used to strengthen or justify not only new curriculum that Ken will talk about, but you can also use that information to justify, right, activities or projects that may be in your grant applications that you may be working on. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and pass it over on to Ken.
Thanks, Wing. So hello, everybody. My name is Ken Yanow, as Wing said, and I'm at Southwestern College, which is in South Bay, San Diego. Wing is in the north corner of San Diego. So we felt as a partnership, getting North County and South County together would be a good idea. for a variety of reasons, but it seems to be working out well, and we're definitely capturing different cohorts of students. So as we mentioned, at Southwestern College, we have a drone program, and our drone program was made in part based upon the DACOM that was hosted over at Palomar College. And so what I wanted to do was just briefly chat about the program at Southwestern College, and then talk about elements if you are looking to build a course or program, what you should be considering when doing so. And I have to give Andy sort of a shout out, not because these are his kids. I just wanted to give him a shout out because before I started the program, I actually attended one of the drone camps at UC San Diego a number of years ago. And it was a real good stepping stone for me to start developing the program at Southwestern College. And so that step, along with the partnership of Palomar College, along with the National Science Foundation grant, really helped us begin the program at Southwestern College. So what you're seeing here are a couple of my students. This was the very, very first cohort of students at Southwestern College. We had a class of around 18 kids. We were flying here in the football stadium. The gentleman to our right, who has the controller in his hands, on the very first day of class, he crashed a drone. I was really bummed about it. It was right at the last 5 minutes. And so I will say this, make sure that you don't trust anyone when you're starting your program, because no matter how confident you get in yourself and the students, something can happen. I will say that this gentleman, for the rest of the course, was really skittish with the remote control in his hands. And we actually had to go through a lot of psychological intervention to get him back on the sticks so that he could actually fly the drone. By the end of the class, he was doing really well and he was back at it. So our program learning objectives, once again, are based in part on that DACOM, because we wanted to have our program mimic the needs of the workforce, certainly within San Diego County. Now, we'll note that counties across the nation are going to have different needs. If you talk to folks in North Carolina, they have a really nice program across the state, and their programs across the state are really into search and rescue and things of that nature. In San Diego, our focus is a little bit different, but no matter what program you're in, no matter what location you're at, there's definitely core elements that every program should have. And I've just listed them here. I don't need to go over all of them in detail. Just know that when we run our program, we want students who are going through the program to be able to fly safely. They need to know all the FAA regulations. We have them take a ground school course to prepare them for the FAA exam. And then we go into a variety of different applications of drone usage, and we train students how to fly. We train students how to collect data. We train students how to analyze that data as well. So those make up the basics of our core learning objectives. We offer 2 certificate paths. We don't have an associate's degree. What I've found out from a lot of our students is we have a lot of students obviously coming back from the workforce. Just to give you an example, we had one student who was a computer engineer, and he has D's in computer engineering, and he wanted to come back and learn how to fly a drone and get his Part 107 license. So we sort of cater to those students. The 2 certificate paths we have, the first one is our Certificate of Achievement. It's 17 units, 6 classes. The design is to try to get these students out in 2 semesters. We have a Certificate of Proficiency, which is much smaller. It's 8 units and 3 classes. The first certificate is really designed for those students who want to jump into the field. We have them take the drone course, which is a 4-unit hybrid. There's a portion online and a portion face-to-face. We have them take a 1-unit online ground school course. We have them take a as well, with a thought to be an entrepreneur in the drone industry. For the folks who are in the proficiency program, we have them take our 2 core courses, which is ground school and then the hands-on training class. but then we have them pick an elective in their field. And electives range from fire science to criminology to, frankly, real estate. And we've had students take the proficiency program just simply to get better in their craft. Last term, we had a father and daughter team who took the program, and they own a real estate company. And so their whole goal was just to learn how to fly a drone, get their Part 107, learn how to take really good imagery for their business. And so those are the predominant students that we get in our program. So what are the elements to consider when developing a course or program? Curriculum is obviously at the forefront. And as Wing mentioned, the DACOM is a fantastic way to start developing curriculum. You can really see what you need to put into place so that your program is critical and of relevance. I mean, anybody can teach anybody to fly, but you really want to have those students learn how to fly for a purpose to get them gainful employment. At the two-year institutions, that's what we're really, really focused on, is getting students jobs. And so the DACOM is a real strong focus on workplace needs. In addition to that, we have Advisory Alliance, which also makes up workforce, and we have partnership with other institutions, including Palomar College. And once again, our courses include that ground school class, a core course, which focuses on flying, data collection, and data processing. Once again, we've got remote sensing, GIS, business, and then we have students pick an elective within their field. Okay, so curriculum to a certain extent is sort of the easy part. The hardware and software, that's the challenge, because the cost is absolutely not for the faint of heart. This is even before you start looking at drones. What are the other accessories you need for your course or program? Extra batteries. You can't be flying on 1 or 2 batteries. For a drone, you need to have more, and those batteries cost anywhere from 75 to 150 bucks each. You need tablets. We choose iPad minis, about 400 bucks. You can go Android, which is way, way less in cost, but we found that the iPad devices tend to be a little bit more efficient, and they work a little bit better, so we stick with the iPad minis. If you are doing higher end data collection and you'll need a thermal sensor, you're looking at a minimum of $3,000. Now, if you're looking to develop videography and cinematography courses, this sensor is not needed. But now also keep in mind, if you get a sensor like this, you have to get the appropriate drone that can carry that payload. So maybe you're looking at a DJI Inspire 2, for example, and that drone is going to cost you $2,000 to $3,000. If you wanted a multi-spectral sensor, like a Alta MicaSense, 10 grand right there. And you'll notice that, or you'll note that some of the workshops we've attended, the presenters are using these higher end multispectral sensors. And again, you know, $10,000 is a lot of money. And so you have to figure out ways to get this if you want to have a sensor such as that. Software such as Pix 4D Mapper, you can get an educator's license, $6,700, one-time charge for 25 seats. The good news is it's perpetual. So you pay one time, but if you want a maintenance where you get every year the new and improved Pix 4D Mapper, then that's probably going to cost you a couple $100. Software for mapping, such as ArcGIS Pro, $10 per seat, an annual charge with 50 seats minimum. So if you've got a relatively small program, $500 annually for ArcGIS Pro is not a bad deal. And you get all the ArcGIS online licenses as well, so that you can push out nice web maps. And then finally, Adobe Creative Cloud, Photoshop, Premiere Pro, $240 annual charge. That's educators discount with unlimited seats. And so you can see already that cost is a really, really big deal. And we haven't even talked about drones yet. So now we talk about drones. And if you want a drone with a 4K camera, $1,500. You don't need to stick to DJI. There's other drones out there. There's Unique. There's other smaller startup companies which are beginning. I would offer some advice for our program. We started with one DJI Phantom 3, and that was great. We were flying, we were taking pictures of rooftops and having a good time. We've, of course, expanded with NSF funding and with Perkins dollars and workplace dollars. Nevertheless, it's still an investment. And so if you're looking at just starting a singular class right from the ground up, a DJI Mavic Mini is not a bad deal for $300. And if you can afford 2 or 3 or 4 of them, and you start your program with flying and videography and photography, that's not a bad way to start a program. In terms of funding sources, again, at Southwestern College, we use a combination of Perkins, Strong Workforce, National Science Foundation to seed the program to get it going. Okay, what are other elements? Campus liability, notification, and registration. You want to contact your CFO immediately to verify that you have a blanket coverage to cover the drones if they crash. And it's not for the drones. The insurance is if that drone hits a building, causes damage, injures anyone, you want to have that blanket liability coverage. You want to notify your campus police that you'll be flying and invest in yellow vests. I cannot stress that enough. Invest in the yellow vests. You can get them on Amazon. If you look like you're supposed to be outside, you'll get less questions. You need to register your drone with the FAA at faadronezone.faa.gov. You can register each drone under a Part 107 license if you have one, and that would be $5 a drone. Or you can register all the drones for $5 total under a recreational flyers registration, but you definitely want to register those drones. Other elements that you really ought to consider: campus and community outreach. Meet with your campus executive team. I sat down with our college president, our VPs, the deans, my dean at Math Science and Engineering, the dean of continued education. And I sat down, I explained what we wanted to do, and I went forward. And before we went forward, I had everybody's buy-in. And when the college president is excited about what you're doing, then you're going to have a good chance of being successful. We offer professional development opportunities for colleagues to get them on board with drones. So we'll invite the photography professor to come to a workshop. And that has turned out to be great. We're going to start offering our course now in partnership with our photography professor, who now has his Part 107 license. And we're going to have a nice videography, photography, mapping course, which is very holistic, and we'll be able to give students more choice in the course. And so you start developing these partnerships across campus, and that tends to work quite nicely. We also offer dual enrollment opportunities with our local high school, and we have drone challenges with our local high school district, which has turned out to be quite fun. So beyond that, I can't stress enough, the biggest challenge for us was cost. It wasn't so much infrastructure or people, it was cost. But if you're thrifty and if you can figure out a way to get the finances, then you have a whole host of resources to help you with curriculum development and things of that nature. Wing and I are always available to discuss stuff. Andy Lyons is a wonderful resource. Brandon Stark is just absolutely phenomenal. And if you don't know Brandon, then absolutely contact him, and he will give you all sorts of information that'll really help you produce a quality course or program. Okay, with that, I'm going to stop my share and turn the workshop over to Andy, who I think is then going to introduce our FAA representatives.